Welcome back to the Automation Podcast. My name is Shawn Tierney, and this week on the show, I meet up with Curt Anderson from B2B Tail to learn how he helps companies and manufacturers implement e-commerce solutions.
Curt, thank you for coming on the Automation Podcast. I'm excited to learn about B2B Tail and what you're doing to help manufacturers in the e-commerce space. But before we start getting into all of that and why this is important, I thought first we'd have you introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, good morning, Shawn. Thank you. What an honor, privilege, man. I'm a huge fan of yours. Love the work that you're doing. Ton to cover today. So my name's Curt Anderson and B2B Tail, e-commerce evangelist for manufacturers. What my goal is just trying to help manufacturers figure out this whole e-commerce world, which is a little bit daunting. You and I are, we go way back. I view you as a e-commerce website online pioneer, if you will. I know you and I both go back to the 90s, so we've been doing this for a long time, and just passionate about trying to help manufacturers navigate through these waters of e-commerce.
Well, I appreciate the comments, and I really do think that e-commerce is so important. And in my I spent 25 years in the field before I started Insights and Automation full time 7 years ago, and we do a lot on the automation blog. We sell books, we sell collections of our content, but a large portion or the majority of our income today comes from the e-commerce on the online courses where we're teaching people how to use the industrial automation. But one of the things I learned from visiting customers, especially smaller OEMs and integrators, is that a lot of times your head electrician or your automation engineer, they sit on a board that guides the companies, right? And they're the type of people who are helping make decisions that can make or break the financial viability of the company. So you think about a small OEM and they get a special order for a machine, should they take it? A lot of times the controls engineer and the lead electrician, they have to sit there and say, can we do this? Do we have the ability to do this? Is this something we're going to be able to do and make a profit on, or are we going to lose a shirt on it? And I've seen companies explode and become extremely big. I've also seen companies go out of business when struggling with these decisions and maybe going in the wrong direction. And then we have, of course, integrators. You take an integrated shop with 5 or 6 guys. Each one of those guys is not only a programmer and a controls engineer, an electrician and a electrical engineer, but they're also key members of the company. They're almost like executive officers in a way, because every job they do, has the potential to make the company a lot of money or put them in the hole. And so these people, if you're working in a big bottling plant or a pharmaceutical or a paper mill as an electrical engineer, you may not have any influence over the e-commerce side. But a lot of these small engineers and OEMs, these SIs and OEMs, the people listening to this podcast will have some influence over company operations. And I thought what you've done, especially the example we're going to talk about with the ground strap manufacturer, it really will show them how you're working with manufacturers on the e-commerce side. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I know a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurial. So they may have a side business, or they may have a spouse or family member who has a side business, manufacturing stuff, So I thought this would be interesting, a break from kind of our product focus. And so with that kind of lead up, can you kind of tell us the B2B Tail story of what you're doing there and how you're helping manufacturers?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you. And that was a great segue. Good introduction, Shawn. I appreciate it, man. So I started an e-commerce business in 1995, had, pre-social media, you and I were back in those days. You remember, that was like pre-Google, right? You remember those days. And so, it was very daunting, very challenging. And so, now with, Google, social media, it's almost inexcusable. And I'm sure you encounter this where, there's manufacturers, they're small, they're widget makers, nobody makes their products better than they do. And marketing is just not their thing. And that's my admiration for you, what you've done, how you've gone all in on your how-to videos, your blog. So like these raving fans that listen to you week in and week out, they know you, they like you, they trust you. And what you do is exactly what we want to encourage your listeners, those manufacturers, to do the exact same thing. Now, there was a Gartner study that came out in June of this year, and I think it said, speaking to your engineering crowd, 83% of B2B buyers prefer to make buying decisions online. So with that description that you just laid out, that example, which happens every day, all day, the internal engineer, the owner, the whoever, somebody in procurement, those top decision makers, they, the days of like, hey, let's get somebody on the phone, let's go back and forth with 30 emails. People want to discover that information quickly, easily. E-commerce, what it does, it provides a frictionless experience. What I love to do and preach to manufacturers, whether you mentioned OEMs, I work with a lot of custom manufacturers where like that custom manufacturer says, hey, I don't have a proprietary product. I feel left out of this e-commerce party. And what we do at B2B Tail, we take them through very stringently on how to get them into the e-commerce party, even if they don't have that finished good or that proprietary product. So what the goal is, what I love to preach is like, how can you help that ideal buyer make a buying decision on a Friday night at midnight without having to wait for you to open up your doors till Monday morning? Because if you're not, before e-commerce was a nice to have, e-commerce today is a must to have, man. You're just putting yourself at a total disadvantage if for any manufacturer, whether OEM, custom manufacturer, that's not going full-blown digital. And just, and again, Shawn, exactly what you've done. I admire, your blogs, your videos. I mean, like if somebody wants to know something about you, you are everywhere. You're out there. You're showing your expertise. And everybody out there, they have their own God-given talents or skill sets. Man, stop being the best kept secret and get that out there. Same approach that you're taking.
Kurt, I want to jump in here, and thank you for the kind words. I want to jump in here and just really focus on something you said before you go on. And I think it's easy, especially people like me. We're in the code, we're writing code. I'm developing a lot of new lesson plans. What's the best way to show them how to use this feature or a PLC? What's the best way to code it? What's the best mode of the turn? We get so involved. We're very focused because we want to be hyper efficient, and sometimes we can miss what's happening not only in the world but in our own lives, and that is a competence. We're expecting a level of competence, a level of ease of use, a level of interactability and usability, because when one website comes out with a great feature and then another does, we start to think that everybody should. So we look at a retailer, they have a review system. Well, then we start going to other retailers when they don't have a review system. We're kind of like, why? What are they hiding? And that's kind of an example from the past, but that's something we expect. And as we expect that, we also are building a generation, both old and new, of people who are moving from the phone to just wanting to see everything on an e-commerce website. In the old days, when I started, there was no web browser and the internet was not public, right? We're going pre-mid 90s, right? And most people didn't even have a personal computer, and most computers were running DOS at the time. Phone calls were a major part of doing business. And you found those numbers a lot of times in the Thomas Register, right? Which was this big, for the youngsters, big like encyclopedia like set of books, really, really thick books, tall books. And if you didn't already have a relationship, it was painful to start one up and get your company set up and do the whole credit application and everything. People do not want that anymore. They want to go to widget maker's website and see that they make exactly what they want, and they want to dial in the pieces they want, and they want to place an order. And they don't want a phone call or an email unless something goes wrong, unless there's a reason to. They just want the product to show up on their front door, made correctly to the right specifications. So that's the journey we've come through, and I think we can all miss it. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with phone calls and personal relationships. I love those, and still have a lot of that. We still have salesmen who visit companies, a little less after COVID, but we still have salesmen and tech guys out there visiting the end user every day to talk about products and solutions and solving issues, but not as much as we did before COVID. And it's just we're all expecting a growth in efficiency because we're experiencing it. My point is, we're all expecting everybody to start raising the bar and becoming more and more efficient. And that's where I think, that's one reason I think people really need to look at e-commerce. So I hate to go on that long diatribe, but I thought that was important to kind of, just from my perspective anyways, and hopefully the audience feels the same way, to kind of say why this is important.
Absolutely. And just think about, Shawn, like we're both Gen Xers, so again, like, we're digital immigrants. We remember the days when, we would probably fax each other, right, Shawn? So,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like, as our generation just keeps moving forward, baby boomers are retiring, millennials are now full-fledged, and these are the digital natives, and
Mhm.
so again, so many of folks like our generation, for years I'd hear like, hey, if I could just get my customer on the phone. Well, unfortunately, they don't want to be on the phone. And think of us as consumers. If you and your family, you're going on vacation, do you want to be calling the hotel and the resort? No, I want to go on their website. I want to see the pool. I want to see the sun shining. I want to see, all the amenities. I want to see the reviews, like you're saying, like it's easy, it's efficient. I can do it any time of day. Amazon has really kind of made it tough for, manufacturers. They've set the bar so high. When I order today, boy, if it's not at my doorstep within 2 days, why not? So again, folks that are in purchasing, all your purchasing, procurement Bob and purchasing Patties out in the world out there that are buying your products, your widgets, they've been spoiled by Amazon. They're doing their holiday shopping right now. They buy it now. They expect it within days. Well, when they come into work, they have the same expectation. And so now when they come to your website, if they don't see product information, they don't see the Meet the Team page, they don't see pricing, there's an immediate potential trust issue. Again, I keep throwing it back at, I really admire, and if there's any new listeners, you haven't seen Shawn's videos, check out, those how-to videos are just so powerful, man. I had an e-commerce business in the 2000s, and that's, when YouTube came out in 2006, we immediately started putting out product videos, and that was just, and it just, the views were just crazy. It's such an immediate, affordable, efficient, powerful way to make that connection.
Well, and I got to do a shout out to vendors like you and Siemens and Rockwell and Schneider Electric and, all the vendors, IFM, and I don't want to leave anybody out, Phoenix, and just so many mocks, all the vendors that have come on the show over the years, Copia and just all these people. I just want to thank them because they are giving us an opportunity to educate ourselves and all of the listeners out there who are not able to get to all the trade shows. It's been tough, especially the last couple of years. It's been tough to get out, and of course, you have the Great Resignation as well. So, I mean, people, it's not that they don't want to sit and chat. It's that they just really more than ever probably don't have the time to. So until we get over this current wave we're in of supply chain disruptions and maybe a shortage in the workforce and just everything to go on until this wave passes and we can get back to what we consider normal. I mean, it's a challenging environment, and that's where I think e-commerce solutions like, and I want to talk about the ground strap manufacturer that you helped because I think this is a great example, a case study of how your company is helping OEMs and manufacturers. Really, we're talking manufacturers, but it could also help SIs and other small companies. Really build out their e-commerce on their website. So let me turn it back over to you.
Before we get to that, I have a special announcement. I've just released my very first book. It's an ebook and it's entitled Logic's Book of Knowledge. What I did is I combined all my Control Logix articles from the last 10 years into an ebook. I updated them, I added new pictures, and I made it all available for just $9.99. So if you appreciate what I'm doing, if you want to support the show and the channel and the blog, then please check out my brand new ebook, Logic's Book of Knowledge, which you can get over at theautomationblog.com/BOK1.
Yeah, thanks, Shawn. I appreciate it. And so again, my e-commerce journey started 100 years ago. And so I was very blessed, fortunate. We had a great run. There's a magazine called Internet Retailer. We made the top 1,000 internet retailer companies 3 years in a row. And then I was even more blessed. I ended up selling the company. And so since that time, that was about 10 years ago. Since that time, my passion, purpose, mission has been helping manufacturers, again, like figure out this whole e-commerce thing. So I kind of, deem myself like a guide, a Sherpa, if you will, of, hey, I've made a lot of the mistakes. The arrows are in my back. Let me come in and help you and prevent those mistakes. So, you take a contract manufacturer. So again, the company you're talking about, they're a wire harness assembly company. They do circuit boards. And so when we connected, they had no e-commerce, no web presence. It was just a really sad shape. Their website looked like it was from probably 1999. And so we started talking to them, and they're like, "Hey, what do you guys do? Who's your target?" Like, "Oh, well, we sell to anybody. And you probably see this frequently, Shawn. It's so common. Manufacturers are like, "Hey, I bend metal, I cut steel, I make circuit boards," and you're like, "Well, Who do you make them for? They're like, well, we can do it for anybody. Again, they're widget experts. They just don't really think about it from a marketing standpoint. Well, when you try to be everything to everybody, unfortunately, we become nothing to no one. So when we were talking with this particular company, we're like, hey, what are you best at? What do you do really well? We're like, well, hey, we're really strong in wire harness manufacturing. So we doubled down on like a whole content strategy, and all of a sudden they started getting first page rankings on like wire harness manufacturing. They were getting all sorts of drawings and new leads, and it was really exciting for this company. It was founded in 1985. So then we dug a little bit deeper, like, hey, what's that product over there that's being made all the time? And we're like, oh, well, that's a ground strap. And we're like, well, what's a ground strap? Well, any of your listeners, of course, know what a ground strap is. It's a ubiquitous, multi-billion-dollar item. Every single thing that draws a current needs to be grounded. Otherwise, you're going to end up looking like me. And if you don't see me, I have no hair. And so everything needs to be grounded. And so they were making thousands upon thousands of these little goofy ground straps for one particular customer. It wasn't proprietary. There was nothing, violation. There was no violation to make more of these. We're like, well, is there anybody else on this planet that would want to buy these ground straps? And we're like, well, hey, let's kick the tires. Let's go into e-commerce. And man, I'm telling you, there's no greater means that's more efficient, more effective, more affordable than like, hey, you already have a website. Let's just throw up a couple pages and put some products on e-commerce. And that's exactly what we did. Then all of a sudden people are like, hey, I like what you have in this size, but we need that size, or we need this width or this configuration or what have you. We're like, hey, I think this is an opportunity that we could allow our ideal customers to create their own ground strap. So what we did, if you're looking at this web page, so I want you thinking about like, their ideal buyer would be like, a buyer at Boeing. And she comes in the morning and, so a supervisor, somebody at the food chain says, hey, buyer Betty, you have 30 things to buy today. Hurry up, go. And poor Betty is, busy. She has a soccer game to get to after work. And she's like, how on earth am I going to buy 30 things? I don't have time to make 30 phone calls. So she does a search for ground straps. So we want to speak concisely to her. Okay. So like, hey, Betty, no RFQ wait time, takes 60 seconds or less. We have your back. We know you're busy. We know you have a soccer game to get to. These are made in USA since 1985. Let's get a quote fast. So you click here. So you go get a quote fast. My internet's going to take a second. So when Betty comes to this next page, okay, do you want it leaded, unleaded? Hey, if there's any questions, Betty, there's a little video right here. Let's go leaded. Hey, how about I want a 1/2 inch and let's go, I want it 66 inches long. No problem. I hit next. If you notice over here to the right, it populates in we're building that menu as we go along. Well, hey, how about if I get a 1/4 inch and a 1/4 inch stud ring? I'm going to hit next. Hey, which orientation do you want? Well, hey, let's go with this one right here. Again, if there's any confusion, we have a video right there for poor Betty, so she doesn't have to call us. We want to make it as easy as humanly possible for Betty to buy from us. Hey, I need 250 pieces. I hit next. I come in here, and do I need another one? No, I'm good. So now Betty, all she needs to do is fill this out. She has a little technical drawing of what and here's the full menu of what she just created. She hits submit and she is done. She moves on to the other 29 things and she makes her soccer game in the afternoon. So that's what a configurator is. And this is a really powerful example of a small, 30, 40 person manufacturer of really stepping up their e-commerce game to make it easy for their buyers to make purchases.
Yeah, so if you're a small custom manufacturer like this company, right? This would be phenomenal. Just ease of use. People can just come in. Again, this doesn't mean they can't call you the first time and kind of get to know you and feel you out. But from after the first initial contact and kind of working back and forth, you introduce them to this website and now they can place all their orders quickly and efficiently, just like you could on an Amazon or Automation Direct. And I don't want to leave anybody out. There's a lot of websites that do this that people rely on every single day. So I'm going to apologize to the audience. I know I'm leaving out your favorite B2B website, but you get the point. So, but I'm also thinking, right, if you're an integrator, right, and you want somebody finds you and you need to make a service call. I mean, they could go through this like as a contact form saying, hey, I got an old PLC 5. I need somebody to come and troubleshoot it. I got a red light, and they could put this all in and say, hey, contact me between, I don't know, 4 and 5 on Tuesday or whatever, right? So they could do that. And an OEM, right? They could say, we have a standard case packing machine. We do this many bottles, and they kind of give them, and then they could say, well, do you need any special? Do you want a 10-inch touchscreen or a 15-inch touchscreen? And they could kind of go through, how many parts per minute do you need? And as maybe not in a, it's a quote in a way, but it's also kind of an initial introduction to the company. And then when you do connect, right, you are talking on a much more informed and informed manner. You actually know what he wants. He actually knows what you provide, and so you can work together much better.
Well, and phenomenal point, Shawn. And two steps. So when the person gets to that step, all they have to do is there's a button that hits submit. They get submit. So in their inbox is immediately that and this is a part they can't find it anywhere else on the planet. Doesn't, I won't say it doesn't exist anywhere, but this is a customized, unique product to them. And, again, these are low cost items. And as you just described, I mean, you can really configure just about anything. But, for this little tiny 30, 40 person business, I'm pulling up a slide here. Here's an example, right here, SpaceX. SpaceX finds this little tiny company called Faulkner Electronics, and they order, like, here, we're ready to order 1,000 pieces. And down here, you see this place order now? That buyer doesn't even need to pick up the phone. They don't need to submit an email. They click place order now, pull out their credit card. They're done. Like, they've placed this order. Here's another example where, like, Ford knocked on this little tiny company, this little custom manufacturer. Hey, Faulkner Electronics, we need 90 to 100,000 pieces annually. Ford, we would be honored to fill 90 to 100,000 pieces. And again, this is a small manufacturer. They've had Boeing, Ford, Lockheed Martin, Virgin Hyperloop, Halliburton, all sorts of, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies have found this company, because the next step, what we're doing is every time that somebody hits submit, and now I'll throw on my SEO hat. I know that you're an internet marketer yourself. Every time that somebody creates one of those pages, it's a new product page. So it's vastly enhancing our SEO juice. So now what we've done is when you Google ground straps, electrical ground straps, little tiny Faulkner Electronics is banging heads with like Grainger, Amazon, McMaster-Carr, all these top companies. But Faulkner Electronics is consistently coming up on first page rankings. So again, we're making it easy not only to buy from us, but we're easy to be found. So we're not that best kept secret.
And I think there's a draw to working with small businesses. And I think there's going to be more and more of that coming too, where we've all felt the betrayal when we go to a big, large online retailer, right? Yeah. And all of the products they have on there are, coming over on a boat and will take 2 weeks to come in. We're like, I know there are people, I like to tell the example of pencils made in America. So I was looking for pencils. I wanted to buy a box of pencils. I love when I sketch things and I'm doing plans for different things. I like to, whether I'm building a deck or re-engineering the studio or designing a demo station, I like to use pencil because I can erase, right? I make a lot of mistakes. So I just thought, I know I've been to so many American manufacturers. I knew somebody in the U.S. made pencils, and I knew they made them affordably, and that's what I wanted, right? And so I searched for 20 minutes on a big retailer, and I could find nothing. And I came to the conclusion, like, they are promoting, just like every website you go to, you got to kind of go to them now with a little bit of skepticism that they're actually showing you what you want to know about versus what they think they will make money off of. And what I found with this one major online retailer is they were promoting not American-made pencils. They were promoting things that they think that would kind of fit that, but they would make the most margin on. And it frustrated the heck out of me because I saw a lot of American companies that made pencils overseas and that was and you know what, we all want products made in our hometown, in our own nation, right? And that's good. Manufacture local, we talked about in a previous podcast, is a great concept. Why have everything built in one building? That's a single point of failure. It's we got to distribute our manufacturers like the car companies do, right? And the phone companies make them all over the world. So long story short, it took a lot of searching to find a phenomenal company that makes everything right here in the good old USA, super quality product, but I would never have found that if I didn't dig and dig and dig and do my research, because all of these sites, all the sites we've talked about, the site you have up now, they're not giving us full disclosure. They're not giving us unfettered results. They're giving us the results that they think will make them the most money. And it's frustrating. I can see this all coming to an end or coming to a head because people are starting to wake up to this, and that's good. But yeah, so I can see, like, if I'm at a Boeing and I need a bunch of ground straps, and I see, well, I got 80 different companies from all over the world, but then I get this one right here in hometown USA, and they have this phenomenal, this phenomenal reputation and great price. I'm like, yeah, let's give them a shot, because you know what? That we're working directly with the people who are making it, not going through a third party. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Go ahead and talk about your example you have on the screen.
Yeah, and so with that custom manufacturer, let's say your folks are out there again, wire assembly, circuit board makers, whatever. I know you speak heavy to that automation crowd, but for that small custom manufacturer, where again, like I bend metal, I do CNC, from a search strategy, how do you stop being the best kept secret? How do you be found? It's challenging because, like, if I'm like, hey Shawn, I want to come up on first page rankings for CNC machining, you're gonna be like, Curt, dude, good luck, it's not going to happen. But when you say like CNC machining for this certain widget on turbine engines, or when you get more specific, which is exactly what you do, and here's a great example, Shawn. I'll pull up another example with your Made in USA. You're the power of video. You are the king of power of video. Okay. I had a manufacturer, they do upset forging. Have you ever heard of upset forging? I had not.
No.
Okay, upset forging is a process at forging. So a client that I was working with, they're in Northwest Ohio. They do forging, particular upset forging. So their keyword that they wanted to go after was Made in USA upset forging. Okay. So when I did a search, and if you guys can see my screen, I'm looking right now, like, I look at this, and Shawn, I call this, I'm like, man, this is like Google 2005. When you look at it, it's very barren. There's not a lot of imagery, video, so on and so forth. So just for an experiment, so I'm an SEO geek, and this is what I do is I help clients. I try to navigate, try to get those organic rankings. I do it for my own company, do it for clients. So for the day that I met these guys, I'm like, man, I really want this as a client. For an experiment, I found a website that explained upset forging. What I did is I turned on my Zoom, I recorded myself reading this website about upset forging. I posted that video on YouTube, and I don't know if you recognize that bald guy, that video
Yep.
there at the top. So the #1 ranking above ThomasNet, I did this on March 8th. March 9th, I was the #1 ranking for that video. Now, what I did is I keyword it, I tailored it very specifically for Google on that keyword. My point is, a lot of your manufacturers, if they niche down to what they're best at, and again, think about that engineer at Boeing that needs that specific part. They're not going to type a broad term like CNC machining. They're not going to type, I need circuit boards. They're going to get very specific on the type of circuit board or the type of product that they need. Well, in this case, Made in America, upset forging, we got #1 ranking within 24 hours, and it didn't. What did it cost? I spent like 30 minutes doing so. So my point is, the other example I just showed you was, Falcon Electronics capturing that Google snippet. That Google snippet is that top coveted, spot on Google. It's the organic. It doesn't cost you a penny on pay-per-click. I apologize if anybody's like, Curt, what are you talking about? You're speaking over my head. The goal is, how do you be found on Google quickly, easily for those ideal buyers? And when you niche down with e-commerce, it puts you in a great position to capture those first page rankings.
That's awesome. I think those are good examples. I was just thinking of one. I'm working on a side project where I'm turning a Raspberry Pi into a PLC, and I wanted to get some real I/O for it. And I found this company that makes real I/O add-on cards for Raspberry Pis, and I was able to find everything online, just like you did for your electronics company, your ground strap company. They had followed your steps step by step, and it just made the whole process so easy. I'd never heard of this company, never used them. But their process was so transparent. They had all the information. They had just like everything was right there. I'm like, yeah, this is what I need. I bought 2 I/O cards, and came in, and they were exactly what I expected. So this is really just making everything easy, and you don't have to sell everything through a retailer who's going to take half of your profit. Mm-hmm. You can do it right from your own website, and you can be successful. And I think your example and my example of the electronic circuit board manufacturer, I think those 2 examples where that's right. Yeah, there is there is a place for e-commerce on your website, no matter what you're doing, whether you're integration, OEM, manufacturer, or whatnot. And so I'll just go back to you on that and with your clothing thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, and to wind down, so like this again, I try to practice what I preach. And just this week, I was like, I really like to get. I was ranked number 9 for e-commerce checklist for manufacturers, and so just on Tuesday, I made a couple of tweaks, another massaged the a couple of things on this one post, and like bam, I'm like, okay, now we just moved. You mentioned Thomas Register earlier. We snuck up to number 2, right behind ThomasNet. So again, for manufacturers out there, I have some manufacturers that are selling direct to consumer. I have a woman, she manufactures amazing women's golf clothing. Okay. Well, she's going against Dick's and, Amazon, every major sporting good, manufacturer. We have to have a really unique, different strategy for her when she's selling consumer products. For your contract manufacturers out there, as you're saying, if somebody needs like a very specific type of circuit board or, certain resistors or, whatever the language is that that your engineer is speaking, there are tremendous opportunities for those folks to really niche down and speak that language. And what we do, Shawn, is so we offer similar to you. We do trainings and workshops, and we call it we work with a lot of the MEPs. You and I talked about that in a previous conversation, manufacturing extension partnerships. So I book webinars at Purdue University, their MEP center. And so what we do is we're trying to teach, educate, empower manufacturers so they're not lost with this whole digital marketing and how pay-per-click works and SEO. We try to we call it SEO Made Simple for manufacturers. That's our workshop. And we try to make it real simple to speak their language. And it's just when you see the light bulb go off and they're just so thrilled and so excited with these opportunities that they don't, again, I keep using that, they don't have to be the best kept secret. And now they can put themselves in position to be found when that ideal buyer is indeed doing that search.
I want you to just take a moment to go through MEPs, because this is a program I don't think a lot of people understand or know about, and it can be a huge game changer. For instance, my wife is a principal, and she's always going after grants to do things at school, whether it's to upgrade the HVAC or put in a playground or get new curriculum in science and STEM and all that. So can you talk to us about MEPs? Because I know you have a lot of experience with this and helped a lot of manufacturers utilize these.
Absolutely. And so I'd be honored to. So if you are a manufacturer anywhere in 50 states plus Puerto Rico, there is an MEP near you. It's called the Manufacturing Extension Partnership. And what it is, Shawn, so it's not a federal agency, but they are federally funded. Okay. Don't quote me on this. I think came around in the 70s when, cheap foreign imports were really starting to hit our country, hard. You and I were young lads at the time, but we kind of lost our manufacturing edge a little bit. And so the country decided hey, let's step up and help our manufacturers be more competitive. So when you hear federal funds are going to manufacturers, they are typically being funneled through the MEP's manufacturing extension partnerships. Okay. Now every state has one. Everyone is different. I'm in New York. And so I think we have 10 different centers. Most states will have one. So for example, I mentioned Purdue University. There's some are parked at universities like Purdue in Nebraska, Montana. They are parked at University of Nebraska, Montana, I think Montana State, if I'm not mistaken. But they're all sorts of resources. They are guides, and they have incredible grant opportunities. Now, what they do is they'll help manufacturers with maybe leadership training, diversity, ISO, operational excellence. And now, thanks to COVID, that's where kind of my relationship comes in, is they are working diligently on trying to help manufacturers figure out, we call it what we've been talking about today here, Shawn, that digital self-serve. Okay. I can come on your website. I could purchase a course. Easy. You've made it so simple for any of your buyers. Come on, pull out your credit card, click, buy, and I'm rocking and rolling. That's the same experience that we want for your listeners, for your clients, for manufacturers out there. When that ideal buyer is out there, they do a search for your proprietary process, whatever solution that you're providing. We want to make it as easy as possible for you to be found, number one. Number two, when they land on your website during our training, we call it, how do you make that great first web impression. You have one chance to make a great first web impression. So again, like with Shawn's how-to videos, he blogs like crazy. We strongly encourage, invite you, welcome you. You should be thinking about doing the same thing. What the MEPs do is they're providing resources, tools, experts, and a lot, as you mentioned, like your wife being a principal with grant funding, there are tons of grant funding opportunities at the MEPs that are helping manufacturers. And I'm seeing it firsthand over and over and over in really powerful experiences.
If you're a smaller OEM integrator or manufacturer, the thought process of trying to get up to speed and run, and add e-commerce to your website can be, it's just, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to do this. Right. And so utilizing MEPs and utilizing somebody like Curt, who has expertise in this, I mean, that could take a lot of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt out of the decision-making process, at least a start to look into, what maybe you should do this. Maybe you should do a trial run. Like Curt said, what is the thing that you do? Maybe you service Allen Bradley PLCs and Siemens PLCs and Schneider Electric and Mitsubishi. Well, that's a pretty unique. A lot of people only do one or two. If you do four, you're pretty unique in the industry, and you may get a lot of calls of people wanting to hire you to come out or I've had friends who they specialize in slitters on paper machines, right? Or maybe you manufacture circuit boards or whatever. I think you can take a lot of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt out when you engage an MEP to help with the funding and the expertise. And of course, we have our own Curt today, who you can also talk to, who's an expert and work with customers every day on this. So, Curt, I think that was a great introduction and overview on what your company is doing and what you're doing and how you're utilizing MEPs. I was just wondering, any final thoughts or any other topics you want to hit on today before we close out the show?
Well, first off, thank you, Shawn. I can't express how much I appreciate this opportunity. You do an amazing, incredible job of putting yourself out there, and just, again, very admirable what you do. It's exciting and it's inspirational, and it just really lends. You've completely doubled down on this, and I'm a solopreneur. I'm in my basement, kind of trying to catch up to you and doing the same type of thing. So, like, for those manufacturers, I know it's daunting, overwhelming. You're like, man, I don't know where to start. Boy, just get started, man. It's just like, going to the gym or any life change. Just get out there, get started. One final thought, we were talking about the MEPs. Most of your folks out there, I'm sure, are familiar with NIST, any of your ISO standards. NIST is the funder to the MEP. So, again, go to the NIST website, check out the MEPs, and strongly encourage you, reach out to your local MEP and just ask, hey, I'm a manufacturer. I feel like I'm alone. I'm in a silo. Man, I'm trying to get ahead. What can you do for me, boy? And they're going to wrap their arms around you, bring in some other subject matter experts, and really help you with what you need to do. So, Shawn, again, thank you, dude. Keep your foot on the pedal. What you do is just amazing, and I can't express my thanks for this opportunity.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show and all the kind words. In reality, I'm only as good as the people who are listening to this podcast, visiting the website and coming into the automation school and asking questions. I mean, without the people out there who need what I'm doing, asking for questions. Hey, can you cover this? Hey, how do I do that? It would be a very boring job. So I got to throw all thanks and credit out to the audience, the readers of the blog, the watchers of the YouTube channel, and my students, especially my students, because they challenge me every day, and I love it. I love it when they say, hey, here's a project I'm working on. I do consulting for students after they take the course. If they need more help, I'll do some one-on-ones with them, and it's been fun, just a great journey. Just seeing their eyes open as they say, "Oh." So thank you to the audience. You guys are the ones who deserve all the credit, and I really appreciate you guys. And thank you, Curt, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the Automation Podcast. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Shawn. So just a shameless plug. I know you're going to be coming up soon. I do a LinkedIn Live twice a week. One's called Manufacturing E-commerce Success. So anybody out there I bring in subject matter experts every week, and we just geek out about e-commerce solutions for manufacturers. I have another show called Manufacturing Monday Motivation, where we're just trying to get people fired up. We're trying to get young people excited about manufacturing and just the future ahead of us. You're going to be coming on as a guest here coming up soon. And again, can't wait to spend more time and build our friendship together.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll make a post on LinkedIn. This show may actually come out after, because we're in the strange holiday season. They actually come out after. So I'll make sure that if you listen to this after the fact, just check my LinkedIn. I'll blog all about it up there, and there'll be links on it up there. So again, Curt, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Shawn. Appreciate it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I want to thank Curt for taking time out of his busy day to tell us how he helps manufacturers and companies with e-commerce solutions. That said, if you did enjoy this episode, please consider giving us a like and a sub. And if you want to follow me or get in touch or support the channel, you can do so over at automation.locals.com. You'll also find all my PLC, HMI, and SCADA training courses at theautomationschool.com. Now, with all that said, I do want to wish you all a very happy, safe, and healthy week. And until next time, my friends, peace.